Okay, now this is the beach that we were trying to get onto. On the far right was the English and the Canadians, and on the far left it was Utah Beach. That one wasn't quite so bad, but Omaha Beach was the worst one of all. That's the second one from the left. The gold, the Juno and the Sword weren't as bad as the Omaha. Omaha was the one with the cliffs, and there were all the casualties on. A great percentage of the casualties happened. And I think what my skipper did is go from the Omaha to the edge of Utah, where we unloaded our cargo, and that's how we got onto the beach. Now, unless there's another river between that low part of between Utah and Omaha, that's where I think we landed. For the second trip in, we landed on Omaha, and the third trip also after we got towed back into France, that's where we landed. Now this is a view of this pretty foggy light in there. It's probably...
This was the beach at Omaha.
Is that the Omaha Beach? What I remember of Omaha Beach, there was a lot of cliffs high, and there was a lot of cabins or holes in it where the Germans were shooting from with their 88s and all kinds of machine guns. Wow, this is our L.S.T. 133 with all kinds of boats tied up alongside of it. Now that looks like it might have been when we were half a mile out.
This was after you were hit.
That's after we were hit. Okay, well then it's, yeah.
And that's the damage in the bow.
Okay, now I was on the starboard or the right side on that back part over there. By the way, everyone on that ship, except 3 of us, were killed. One of them drowned because he jumped in the water trying to swim to another ship, but never made it. Halfway across, he went under. Just another guy that stopped me from jumping in because I was thinking of diving in myself and helping him. But he smartened me up and told me, hang on. And we finally got the boat open so that we could go topside and get out of that hole. I went back in that hole a day later, that stump, that beat was, and I went to see one of my radio men. He would look as if he was sleeping. He was dead. The concussion of the explosion draws all the breath out of your system. And for some reason or other, none of them survived that blast. I don't know what that is.
This one here is looking down into the bow. That's what it said. You guys that are good with computers, like who is it, right? With you guys.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
go Google L.S.T. 133 and you can find all this stuff. There's actually motion picture on YouTube of the 133 going through the water. I haven't had a chance to show you that one.
Okay.
This is looking down into the part of the ship that was hit, and thank God this is black and white because there's a lot of carnage, according to the caption that you can see down in the hull. And this is after it was dry docked when you went back in. Describe that. You got about 3-4 minutes left there.
Okay, well, I got off that ship when we went back. We were towed the rest of the way into France, and they welded some they welded some plates on our ship so they wouldn't crack any further, keep it intact. By the way, I finally got out of that hole when I pulled on a cable and it broke, and I thought to myself I could have get electrocuted if it had been alive. So I tested another one, and that one was okay, and I finally pulled myself out of that hole. And what happened is the floor, we call it the deck. The deck just folded up between that and the bulkhead, which is the side of the ship. And that's what saved me from the concussion. So the concussion went up to the side of me, and I was in between the floor of the deck and the bulkhead, which is the wall, more or less. So I got out of there, and we tried to open the door, and that was, we couldn't open it by ourselves. We had to wait until somebody came in from topside and push so that we could get it open. And I also saw one of my buddies with a locker opener, so I tried to push that locker off to get to him. And I thought, this is where you get superhuman strength, and I couldn't get it up more than 2-3 inches. And then the bosun mate came in, and he helped me push that locker off. And I grabbed his feet, he grabbed the shoulders, and pulled him out of there. Then he threw him over his shoulder and went up the side of the ship. I looked at my feet, and all I had was my stockings. I said, I better get on topside and see what the situation is before I get caught down here. So I went topside, and the fellow that had stopped me from jumping in the water was over there crying, telling the boys to go get me, that I was still down there. So I got up and went to my radio shack and got the in these occasions you're supposed to grab all the confidential material, put it in a sack, and give it to your skipper, so that if we're going to sink, he can take care of that. So I did my duty as I saw it, and then went back to the radio shack and just waited. They towed us into France, we unloaded our load, went back out, they towed us back into England, and then they...
Then the bell rang, the period was over.
I'd love to keep them here, and I'm sure they'd like to stay, but school has rules about that, so guys, we will see you. I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Jerry Jean, who is a U.S. Navy veteran of World War II, who was a radio man on an L.S.T, which is landing ship tank. And he was there at D-Day. He was at Omaha Beach, which was the worst place to be in France on that day. All the other 4 beaches were a lot easier by comparison. So Mr. Jean is here to share some of his thoughts and perspectives with you. So Mr. Jean, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Well, I hope you get something out of it. I decided to join the Navy after Pearl Harbor on December 7th. I wanted to join that day, but I cooled off the next day, because that was on a Sunday, Pearl Harbor. And the next day, Monday, I decided I wasn't going to right off quick. I had some more enjoying of life to do. So I waited until September 2nd, or close to September, the following year, 1942. And I joined the Navy on my mother's birthday, September 2nd, 1942. I decided to join the Navy because my dad had been in the Army, World War I, and he had to sleep in foxholes, and that was in the mud, and they got gas, they got shell shocked, and all kinds of... so I decided the Navy, at least they got bunks that you can sleep in. don't have to sleep in the dirt. So I was sent to boot camp in Rhode Island in September, October. Took my 8 weeks of boot camp training. Had a short holiday or furlough before I was shipped to Norfolk, where we was going to get assigned to a ship or a crew. Someone came by and said, we're taking volunteers for a radio. Anybody interested in being a radio man, fall in over here. Well, I was one of the first ones to jump to that opportunity because I had been a fan of radio all the time I was a kid. I enjoyed listening to hillbilly or bluegrass music. It was called hillbilly then. And country music, and I dreamed of being a DJ, but never did. But anyway, I wanted to get into radio, so I joined the radio. And of course it was for LCIs, which is a small boat, and you didn't have to have 8-9 months of radio training like they did on the regular radio. So we had 8 or 9 weeks, and I buckled down, and I was able to copy 8 or 9 to 12 words per minute. Of course, the regular radio men were copying 28 to 32 words a minute. The reason I say that is because for my Christmas vacation or Christmas furlough, I came home to get married, and my communication officer told me that if I was going to get married and needed more time to let him know, and he would grant it. So I did send him a telegram, but I don't think he got it, and I never got the. But anyway, I went to W.W.II because I took the extra time. And when I went back to Norfolk, I was W.W.II, but the officers told me, he says, how come you didn't show up? I said, well, I was supposed to have an extension to get married. But he said, okay, well, to get married, yeah. All right, that's enough punishment for you, so go ahead. And he gave me a break. So I went to, so I had lost my crew for the LCIs, because they went to Texas, Brownsville, Texas. But I was glad not to be on those LCIs, because the experience I'd had before on the LCI while we were doing maneuvers on the Chesapeake Bay, they used an oil heater and that stunk, and it was smoky, and that wasn't good. That wasn't healthy. I got cough, cold, and I was glad to get out of there. But I was assigned instead to an L.S.T, which is a much bigger ship. But the radio men on that ship were 8-9 months compared to my 8-9 months, and they were just regular seamen, and I was rated third-class petty officer. So that didn't fit too good with my buddies. I was in charge of them, and they knew more than I did. But I had a little age on them. They were only 18, 19, or maybe 20. I was 22 at the time. So anyway, I got into trouble, and they decided to send me some more schooling. So I got off that crew and did some practicing. I'm taking court, and I got my code up to about 24 words a minute. Then they assigned me to another L.S.T, and I was able to keep up with those boys. And we left Norfolk, went to Boston to Halifax, Nova Scotia, and from Nova Scotia to St. John's, New Brunswick. Then we started out across the ocean. Because we had a big L.S.T. on board our ship, and the weather was real rough, and the rain and snow, all it did was freeze, and it made us heavier and heavier and heavier. So we had to go chip ice, so that that was our job until to keep the boat from being too heavy. Then we hit the storms, and we had waves 100 feet high. When you get up on top of the wave, we could see way over. Then when you get into the bottom of the wave, all you see is a wave in front of you and a wave behind you. And when the propeller, the screw, came out of the water on account of the wave, then you could hear that screw spinning fast. And then when the water wave caught up to it, it would bounce the ship, and we didn't know what was happening. So it was very nerve-wracking to put up with the ship bouncing in and out of those waves. Then somebody would open up a hatch, that's a door, and then they would sometimes bang close as the ship was rolling. And we thought, well, we got hit. No, it was just a hatch. So it was nerve-wracking. So it took us almost a month, 4 weeks, to get across the ocean. Now that's a picture of a L.S.T. It's yeah, we was in New York. That's where we started. And
You
we had
guys
an
see the smaller
LCT.
boat on there?
Yeah, that LCT is on top of the deck there. When you have to launch them, they have a ballast where they take all the water off on one side and load it with water on the other side, so the ship will tilt, and then, well, the other way, and then you could slide that LCT right off, and it would slide off into the water, and that's how we launched them after we got to England. But we had to carry them from the United States, from this country to Europe. And when we got to Europe, it took us almost about 4 weeks, I think. We came down in between Ireland and Scotland. Then we went along the coast of England. We first hit, I think it was Falmouth, Weymouth Harbor, and Southampton. And we did a lot of maneuvers while we was in England. That's from the month of February, March, April, May. We would practice landings, and we could see the English planes. They were fast. They were traveling. They were fast. They would go 400 or 500 miles an hour, I think. That ship is when it was launched there. That's where it was launched in Evansville, Indiana. We had picked it up in Chicago. Well, we had gone to Chicago, picked it up in Evansville, came down to New Orleans, went along the Gulf, around Florida, and I noticed Florida, the sand was real white. It looked like snow almost, you know. And that's when we went up to Boston and on up. And then we got to England, and then we maneuvered all kinds of practices in the English Channel and the bays. Then the first part of June, they had no more communication. We couldn't get off the ship, so that we knew we was headed for England. So we were supposed to go there on the 5th, which was the day before D-Day. But they had postponed it another day because the weather was real rough. So we took our time going from England to France. And we got there on D-Day around noontime. And we just watched everybody trying to get into the beach, and then we got orders to go in, and so at 5 o'clock we started going in, but it looked pretty rough because everything in front of us was getting blasted by those 88s in the cliffs. And I saw one LCI get hit, and I saw one guy flying into the water, and we got to within less than a half a mile, about a quarter of a mile from the beach, when the destroyer escort got in between us and the shore batteries. The 88s were in there, and he was pounding at those 88s, and he actually drew the fire away from us. Then we got orders to stop and head back out, because it was just suicide to try and get in, especially with our cargo. We wouldn't have been able to bring it intact. So we anchored. They told us to anchor right there within a mile, or less than a mile, from the beach. And the rest of the convoy, 4,000 or 5,000 ships, were out there, about 5 miles out. First thing I knew, we had a bunch of rhinos, that's platforms with those motors on them. We had 3 of them tied up alongside of us, and they were bringing the wounded, and first thing we knew, we had a bunch of doctors coming in, and they were operating on the deck of the ship, and we even had a German prisoner. And I could speak French. I tried speaking French to him, but he didn't understand that either. And English he couldn't understand, so he was German. So anyway, I left them alone and went up to the radio shack. And everybody in our cruise quarters, well, my bunk was a bloody mess. I couldn't use it until after we had gotten back to England and cleaned it up and put a new mattress and new linen on it. I forgot where it was now, but we stayed there for the night. And then, of course, in that part of the world, it's so far north that the days are real long and the nights are short. So the sun doesn't go down till after 11 o'clock at night, or almost midnight. And the sun comes up early in the morning, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, the sun comes up. So when the sun went down, the plane came over and tried to straffle us, but we had these barrage balloons with wires, so they didn't get too close. Somebody thought that he had hit one of our wires and had fallen next to our ship over there, but I didn't see that. Then some more German planes came over, but they were going for the 5 miles out. They were going for the fleet. So 4,000 or 5,000 ships with cannons and tracers. You talk about the fireworks. That was the biggest and greatest firework display I've seen in my life. I mean, there was, and every hour they would come, and they would try and straffle and drop bombs and drop mines on the fleet. And so for three, four raids we had that night, until next morning the battleship opened up with their big cannons, and I could hear those shells go right over our ship. They'd get mad at me if I called it a boat. You could hear those shells whine, just whistles by. So they would do that for 20 minutes to a half hour, and then take a break. And then they would do it again from 8 o'clock until noon. They did that. Then at noontime they gave us orders to try and go into the beach. So here we go again. We let loose of all our rhinos and everything that was on board our ship, and get rid of quite a few of our patients or soldiers that were wounded, and they cleaned it all up, put them on boats, and brought them to the fleet, and then we tried to go in. So we got pretty close to the beach, when instead of going in, our skipper made a right-hand turn and headed west towards Utah Beach. And we kept going, and every mile or so, we would make a left-hand turn to try and go in again, and then he didn't like it, I guess, so he would turn back and go down another. So we was going on that beach there from the right to the left, going towards Utah Beach, more or less. And we saw a hill there in between Utah Beach and Omaha Beach, and I think that's where he decided to go in. But before he got there, he had let one of our sailors swim ashore after we got by the river to see how the land looks, see where it would be safe, almost safer to try and land. So he got to that hill, and that's where we tried to go in. So when we started in, we knew we were going in because he dropped the stern anchor so that he could pull us out after we tried to go back out. And we got up to the beach where all the obstacles were, and the guy in the forecastle, he told the skipper that there was obstacles right dead ahead. So he tried to brake and pull on the stern anchor to stop the ship from going into those obstacles, and we stopped short of them within 5-10 feet probably. So we stayed there for an hour or so until the water went down. Then they opened up the bow doors. But before doing that, the CBs were in there, and they were with rifles popping off those mines that were on these obstacles. Now, those were like jack-o'-lanterns with mines on the ends of them. And then they had obstructions with poles, and they had mines on it. It was really 3 rows of different types of mines. So they pulled off, they put chains on a tractor, and they pulled off some of those obstacles after they got the mines blown up. So they made a path wide enough so they could put a iron steel mesh so that they could roll the tanks and the cannons off the beach without sinking into the sand and off the beach onto the hearts. Because the sand over there is really soft, and everything would sink right in. So we heard the rumor that 2 or 3 hours after that we had unloaded this load of 101 infantry, that they had stopped some tanks and had salvaged or saved them from coming and retaking the beach. Come about 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, it was time to try and get off the beach. Well, while we was on the beach, I even went out on the beach trying to find some shells, a souvenir of France. So I found 2, 3, 4 of them. Then I started thinking if there's any, I could get shot at over there. I'd better get back on board ship. So I got back on board ship with my shells. And around 8 o'clock, we started pulling on the